Uh, one of our friends is here now, Tangerine, and she has brought a beautiful picture of her late mother. I would like to welcome each of you, if you would like to do so, to have a picture of your deceased dear relatives or ones whom you care about, who were important in your life, and to use those as an object of contemplation during this coming weeks. As well, if you are happy to send me by email a digital version of those images, then we will print them out and put them up on our altar here. We'll be doing the what's called Pamsukula chanting several times a week in the evening at 7 o'clock. That's a chanting that's done for the memorial for deceased persons, and we will be holding all who have passed away, as well as all of your particular friends that you ask us to recall, as a way of that sharing the merit is one aspect of the contemplation on death, the mindfulness of awareness of death. Another part of it is on our own behalf, not just doing it for the benefit or merits of others, but for our own benefit, for our own welfare, for our own wisdom, to regularly do this practice. And I bring up for you, in that light, a pair of short suttas from the Anguttara Nikaya. We are going to be looking at the first and second suttas on the mindfulness of death. This is in the Anguttara Nikaya, in the sixes, 6.19 and 6.20. I'm going to put them up on the screen for you. First, mindfulness of death. Patama is first. Marana is death. And sati is mindfulness. This goes right into the sermon without a lot of setup of what the particular story was. The Buddha was staying at Nyatika in the brick house. At that time, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants are bhikkhus, he said. Venerable sir, they replied. And the Buddha said this. Mendicants, when mindfulness of death is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in the deathless and ends with the deathless. So the amata is the Pali word for the deathless. This has a slight, you could say, a pun. Amata is death, amata without death. The pun is that in Indian mythology, as in the mythology of a lot of cultures, there's an idea of something which is like an ambrosia. And this ambrosia, or magical drink, takes you to undying state, to the deathless. But the Buddha is not trying to guide us towards some kind of eternal life in heaven or something like that. He's trying to guide us towards a state which is beyond birth and death. So that's how we should need to understand that idea about the deathless. There's another something I'll like to mention about this paragraph, or this sentence. There are a number of different places where this stock language is used, where a particular kind of a meditation practice is mentioned. And the Buddha says, when it's developed, that's called bhavita, that's called bhavana, is cultivation. It's like mental cultivation or meditation in the Eightfold Noble Path. The right effort, purifying the mind of the unwholesome states and developing the wholesome states, practicing mindfulness, and practicing samadhi, or concentration. Those three parts of the Eightfold Path are called bhavana. So that's the development. And then bahuli kata means to make much of, to make it big. Sujata translates as cultivate. So you establish something, and then you allow that aspect of your practice to grow and develop until it reaches the full maturity of growth and begins to bear fruit for you. So then it becomes fruitful. The Pali is the fruit. So you get a great fruit, a great result from this practice. And then, as I said before, culminating in the deathless and ending in the deathless. So some of the topics that have the same thing applied to it. There's the maranasati, the death, contemplation of death. Asubha sanya, the perception of the unpleasant aspect of the human body. Then there's the anapanasati, the mindful awareness of the in-breathing and out-breathing. Then there's the attikasanya, the contemplation of the skeleton. There's the nirodhasanya, which is the perception of cessation. So those are themes that we could find, and someone who wants to search more carefully may find other themes that are given the same qualification. I don't think that the Buddha is advising to practice part of the Eightfold Noble Path, that you can skip the rest of it and only practice part of it. But I believe that the Buddha does recognize for different persons, different practices are ones that are beneficial for that different individuals. So whichever practice you are able to do and find some benefit from, as I understand this advice, is to take that practice and try to develop that one practice that you have some success with, and give it your all, give it a lot of practice to allow that one practice to come to maturity and yield its contribution to your overall growth in the Dhamma. When he said this, one of the mendicants said to the Buddha, "Sir, I developed mindfulness of death. But, mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, sir, I think, oh, if I'd only live for another day and night, I'd focus on the Buddha's instructions and I could really achieve a lot. That's how I developed mindfulness of death." Another mendicant said to the Buddha, "Sir, I too develop mindfulness of death. But mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, sir, I think, oh, if only I'd live for another day, I'd focus on the Buddha's instruction and I could really achieve a lot. That's how I develop mindfulness of death." Another mendicant said to the Buddha, "Sir, I develop mindfulness of death. But mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, sir, I think, oh, if I'd only live as long as it takes to eat a meal of alms food, I'd focus on the Buddha's instruction and I could really achieve a lot. That's how I develop mindfulness of death." Another mendicant said to the Buddha, "Sir, I too develop mindfulness of death. But mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, sir, I think, oh, if I'd only live as long as it takes to chew and swallow 4 or 5 mouthfuls, I'd focus on the Buddha's instructions and I could really achieve a lot. That's how I develop mindfulness of death." Another mendicant said to the Buddha, "Sir, I too develop mindfulness of death, but mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, I think, oh, if I'd only live as long as it takes to chew and swallow a single mouthful, I'd focus on the Buddha's instructions and I could really achieve a lot." Perhaps you can see where this is going. That's how I develop mindfulness of death. Another mendicant said to the Buddha, "Sir, I too develop mindfulness of death. But mendicant, how do you develop it?" "In this case, sir, I think, oh, if I'd only live as long as it takes to breathe out after breathing in, or to breathe in after breathing out, I'd focus on the Buddha's instruction and I could really achieve a lot. That's how I develop mindfulness of death." And when that was said, the Buddha said of those mendicants, "As to those mendicants who develop mindfulness of death by wishing to live for a day and a night, or to live for a day, or to live as long as it takes to eat a meal of alms food, or to live as long as it takes to chew and swallow 4 or 5 mouthfuls, these are called mendicants who live negligently. They slackly develop mindfulness of death for the ending of defilements. But as to the mendicants who develop mindfulness of death by wishing to live as long as it takes to chew and swallow a single mouthful, or to live as long as it takes to breathe out after breathing in, or to breathe in after breathing out, these are called mendicants who live diligently. They keenly develop mindfulness of death for the ending of defilements. You should train like this. We will live diligently. We will keenly develop mindfulness of death for the ending of defilements. That's how you should train." So, this sutta is emphasizing one of the 9 benefits of the practice of the contemplation of death, which I mentioned this morning in my Sunday morning talk. I may paste those 9 benefits in your in the chat, so you can know where I want to go for the remainder of this month. Let's see. Open. Chat. Chat. So when we reflect that we must die, then yes, we will have this spiritual urgency. If we have any unskillful or unwholesome habits of the mind, I think it's useful to consider we have those unskillful habits of mind because we have chosen those unskillful habits. At some kind of level, we like the unskillful, and that's why we keep it. There's something, I think it must be some kind of a psychological fact that when mother says, you must do this, that the little child says, no, I won't. Or when mother says, you cannot have this, then child says, I want it. It's a kind of a reaction. And in that way, even though logically we know that the practice of loving kindness is good for us and the practice of hatred is poison to us, it's possible that a person could think that it was fun to hate. Or they could not see the danger in hating, or even if objectively, logically they see the danger, nevertheless they sometimes find it fun to indulge in a little bit of hatred, to indulge in contempt, or to indulge in looking down on others. Maybe not the people who we see face to face, but people far away or something like that. And all of the other negative habits, we have those habits because we chose them. But if we saw that death can come at any time, then we wouldn't want to entertain or nurture or allow those poisonous thoughts even for a minute. We could see how quickly and how easily a poisonous thought can become a habit, and the danger of those negative habits in preventing us from obtaining the goal. In addition to wanting to obtain the goal in terms of our Buddhist practice, following the Buddhist instruction for meditation, mindfulness, wisdom, and cultivating the wholesome states internally, there's something that I just want to mention because I've noticed it with different people when they get close to death. It is super important to take care of all of your relationships, all of the people in your life who are affected by you. If you have some unfinished business with your family or with people that you know in reality, people who you have some relationship with. It's greatly beneficial to take care of that in as real a way as you can. If for some reason it's impossible to speak to that person and to apologize or make amends or make up for whatever their negativity is, then at least you can do the contemplation of loving kindness specifically for that difficult person. So, may they be well, happy, and peaceful, and may no harm come to them, may no difficulties come to them, may they always meet with success, and may they have the patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome all the problems, difficulties, and failures in life. And doing some kind of at least a contemplation like that to mentally apologize for whatever, if you neglected to do something or if you did something that was the opposite of their welfare. Try to make up for it and try to do it in actuality, if at all possible. In my family, I had one sister and 3 brothers, and two of my brothers didn't get along with each other. They just went their separate ways and didn't see each other year after year. Then when my next older brother obtained cancer and was in the hospital dying, he kept calling hour after hour, like night and day. He was saying, "Mike, Mike, Mike, Mike." And the nurses thought he was hallucinating something, but we understood that he needed to speak to Mike. Mike was his brother, the one that he had cut off the loving friendship with. And finally, fortunately, Mike was able to come and speak to my other brother before he passed away. And that was to his benefit. Other people I've seen who have had the good fortune to be able to know and be like fully aware that death was coming, who did have time to, in a kind of a methodical and conscientious way, to reach out and to give the hand of friendship towards all the people in their lives, and to come to some kind of completion, that those individuals can have a much more tranquil passing. And this is in addition to the even more profound urgency of doing everything we can to realize and fully integrate the wisdom of these teachings, and to develop the state of mind that has no attachment to existence, that has no longing for existence, so that then as death approaches, one can just simply be aware of the changes that are happening in the body as the body is going through its process of dying, and to just simply being mindful, this is what it is. This is what's happening with the body as the body is in the process of shutting down or closing down. So I'd welcome your thoughts and suggestions right now. The suttas are very short, so we have time to discuss. If you have spiritual urgency, what would you be doing differently as one practicing with spiritual urgency, as opposed to one who imagines that they have all the time in the world for their practice? Okay, Richard.
Thank you, Raya. One thing is that I don't think these suttas are like depressing or anything in any way, because Buddha says that this leads to the deathless. So that should be very like heartening and inspirational. Okay, let's go. That's what I want. Uh, the other thing is that the first person says, "What? May I live a night and a day?" And so I think what Buddha means by these are uh, uh, not as strong an endeavor is that the person can think maybe one time a day, oh, let me just live a night and a day, to hear the Buddha's teaching more, right? Then the other person is kind of like twice a day. Okay, let me, twice a day. And then it's like down to a meal. Okay, the beginning of the meal. Okay, let me think. And then the next meal, whatever. And then finally it's just down to a mouthful or something, or a few mouthfuls and then a mouthful, right? And then just either an in or out breath. So the person doing the in or out breath is kind of like with each in and out breath, they're like trying to reaffirm, their endeavor. You see what I'm saying? So I think that's why it's not just the fact that it's each one is kind of a shorter interval. It's that the person is going to be reaffirming that more and more and more, and there was one other point I wanted to make, but unfortunately, it slips my mind now. Maybe it'll come back to me. Yeah, yeah, I can't think of it. Okay, but thank you.
Thank you. So indeed, like when one is developing, say, mindfulness of the breath, if you just notice for one moment, you notice the in-breath, and for one moment, you notice the out-breath, there's lots and lots of moments in between the times that you're aware. And then gradually, as you develop in the practice, you're noticing more and more moments until it becomes continuous. And so that kind of continuous awareness, you are practicing day and night for the whole night and the whole day you're practicing, but the practicing is continuous because every moment of that time one is practicing. I think that's what you're saying, and yes, that's a really, really nice observation. It is possible, I don't think I do this about mindfulness, but sometimes I do it about chores. Like if I know that I need to prepare something, that I have to prepare for this class, and I know about it on Friday afternoon, and I might think, well, there's 6 hours left in the day, and I only need like 2 hours to prepare this class, and so I can just do whatever I want to do and just read whatever sutras I want to do, and I don't have to like be focusing on preparing for this class, because as long as I wait until the last 2 hours before the class and then knuckle down and prepare for this class, and something like that. So that's kind of like a mind of procrastination. And so the Buddha says that if there's something which is skillful to do, you shouldn't wait. You shouldn't hesitate, and you shouldn't procrastinate about doing something which is skillful. You should do that skillful thing quickly, joyfully, and then one should continue doing skillful things again and again. So there are several different stories about procrastination, which is another word for giving an allowance to like one sensual desire, or giving an allowance to one worries, or giving an allowance to something else which is less skillful. Say, I'm just going to let this less skillful thing play in the playground for another hour before I have to, buckle up and be skillful again, something like that. But don't do that. Don't procrastinate. That's what Richard was saying. I could turn to Damon.
I think that you have said before, perhaps in the context of death but that the takeaway, besides not being angry towards others, don't waste another moment being angry towards others. And don't waste another moment. On my experience, I try to not waste another moment beating myself up about, my failures or perceived failures. Instead, what I've learned from you is, to, when those thoughts arise, to just find them humorous and to say to the committee in your head, thank you for sharing, and moving on. And so yes, so some of the advice that you're giving, I think, is consistent with very common sense colloquial advice about don't waste another moment in unkindness. In general, don't waste these precious moments. So if we only have one more day to live, then let this be a day that we spend in love towards others and towards ourselves. Yeah, that's one thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Those are beautiful thoughts. I don't need to explain your thoughts because you're so clear. I'll call in Sharanya.
Good afternoon, Aya. It's very interesting that we're talking about this today because I've been noticing in recent weeks that my sleep has been disturbed. And I know that it has to do with the Dhamma and maybe feeling like I'm not making progress. And I think a big part has to do with feeling like I don't have the supportive conditions for a traditional practice. And so I'm trying to entertain the idea that kind of I have to be practicing with my eyes open and doing my daily chores. And I have to say that there's some practice, but I can still feel the hard knot of resentment in all of these different relationships manifesting from time to time and feeling like there's just still so many defilements in my mind and also recognizing that more of my life is perhaps behind me than ahead of me. So it's really interesting mix going on. And I guess I'm most aware of it. I guess it's a form of anxiety, and I'm most aware of it in my sleep than I am when I'm awake. So I don't know if I have anything more to say outside of just noticing this and feeling more of an urgency of practicing it and maybe modifying my practice to suit my circumstances. But also recognizing maybe that it is what it is. I'm rambling. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But thank you.
Thank you very much for this very honest report. Indeed, it can sometimes happen that something is going on with us and it hasn't yet crystallized in a way which is very clear. For me, when I know that I've reached the moment of clarity is when I know what I should do about it. That I should let this go or I should pick this up. Uh, uh, and in some ways, just taking our own psychology as an interesting domain for investigation. I think there's a famous book called The Anthropologist on Mars. So when we look inside of our own mind, into our own psychology, it is some ways like being an anthropologist on Mars, where what is this strange country? What's really going on? And what's the meaning of all these, the rituals, all the different thoughts that happen in the world that's inside of our head. And just trying to do our best and also just watching and looking in a very sympathetic way. And then sometimes the moment does happen when somehow we know, yes, this is the way we should go. So, Sharanya, as you said about practicing it with the eyes open, going throughout the activities of daily life, oh, what a great idea that is. And it's even better idea when we actually do it and try, again and again repeatedly to see if it's possible to practice that way until that style of practicing becomes, very like fit and stronger. So, and this is part of, taking it seriously. Colin Maureen?
Okay. When I read the suttas, it struck me that everything we do, every minute we're awake in our life, in our household life, has the potential of helping us get closer and closer to getting closer and closer to Nibbana. And I'm very impatient and get irritated with repetitious chores and things. Why am I still cleaning up this mess that I cleared up, hardly any time before? It just goes on sometimes. And then I started realizing that this wasn't helping me in any way whatsoever. And so this practice of being mindful of each action is when I can see that I'm getting irritated, or I can see when I'm impatient, and then I can back off from that and be more skillful about the way I'm approaching every little bit of my daily life. And that's that sort of reinforce those suttas reinforce that for me. And the other thing is, when I'm in bed before I go off to sleep, I often think about I am of the nature to decay. I've not gone beyond decay. I'm the nature to be diseased. I've not gone beyond disease. And I'm of the nature to die, and I haven't gone beyond death. And I find that quite comforting. Yes, that's how life is. And those are the things that when I was reading these, that I was thinking about. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Yeah.
Thank you. I want to go back to the second sutta that we have for today. This is number 6.20 in the Anguttara Nikaya, the second Mindfulness of Death Sutta. At one time, the Buddha was staying at Nyahatika in the brick house. There, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, when mindfulness of death is developed and cultivated, it's very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in the deathless and ends in the deathless. And how is mindfulness of death developed and cultivated to be very fruitful and beneficial, to culminate in the deathless and end in the deathless? As a day passes by and night draws close, a mendicant reflects. This is tying into what we've been doing throughout this Vasa. I tried to teach you the idea of mindful reflection as a habit of practice, That's Patisanchikati. So this is a reflection that the Buddha recommends. I might die of many causes. A snake might bite me, or a scorpion or centipede might sting me. And if I died from that, it would be an obstacle to me. Or I might stumble off a cliff, or get food poisoning, or suffer a disturbance of bile, phlegm, or piercing winds. And if I died from that, it would be an obstacle to my progress. A mendicant should reflect, are there any bad, unskillful qualities that I haven't given up, which might be an obstacle to my progress if I die tonight? I'm just going to pause here and comment that in the previous sutta, it was almost like a shaggy dog story with the many months with the different lengths of time. And here is some person that's like a story of somebody who's a worrywart. And they say, oh, a snake might bite me. Oh, a scorpion might bite me. Oh, I might stumble off a cliff. Oh, I might get food poisoning. And so it's almost as if the Buddha in this way has got a certain kind of like a gaiety to it, is suggesting all the different like dangers in life. There's something very serious which is underneath the joke, and that is the theme of uncertainty or anxiety because of the consciousness of the dangers to our life, the dangers to our existence. When a person is struck with fear and anxiety, that can be crippling and damaging to their mental health and damaging to their physical health. But if they undertake the practice to overcome and get beyond that anxiety and to have a very free and neutral, objective acceptance of the things that might happen, so that all of those thoughts or imaginings are what we see around us about things that could happen. There's a kind of a detachment that comes about, and then there's no more trembling, no more fear, and no more upset about either potentially or in actuality encountering any of these dangers. And then one can, in a certain way, make a little joke. It's just like a gentle joke about all of the endless number of things that a person can worry about. Sharanya has a hand up. Yes. Do you want to speak now?
Sorry, I didn't want to disturb you, but I was just going to say that I have the opposite reaction to those very same things. Is that instead of dropping the worry, which I guess eventually I do, but feeling the need to control, to put things in place. So I don't know if you had a response to that.
Right. So you would learn how to stay away from snakes, scorpions, and centipedes, and don't go too close to the edge of the cliff. Be careful with your food, that the food is not poisonous. And then take very good care of your health to try to avoid the different kinds of diseases that come along. Right. So the Buddha does not advise us to harm ourselves or to punish ourselves or to torture ourselves. The Buddha is recommending that this life that we have especially when we can encounter the Dhamma, when we've got the faculties to be able to hear the Dhamma or to read the Dhamma. We've got the mental faculty to be able to understand to some extent the Dhamma that we can hear about or read about. And we have the mental faculty to be able to reflect and to contemplate. This is something precious, and you wouldn't want to throw it away by going on some kind of thrill-seeking adventures that are putting yourself in danger, or being careless or negligent, or not refusing to use medicine, or any other ways that one would, in a way, sort of, you could express a wish for death by doing something which is dangerous, or putting oneself in the space of danger. So I don't, in that way, it's logical to take reasonable measures to avoid these dangers. But we also know that one way or another, death is going to come to us. I don't know if it's going to be a snake, a cliff, or a disease, but one way or another, I can say for sure, death will come to me. And then, and there's not any precaution I can take that's going to prevent death from coming at some point. So the danger that we are not able to avoid, we have to be able to accept, and we have to be able to accept it without being caught up in fear and anxiety. I'm going to say one more thought, and then I'll call on Damon. The meditation that I was giving this morning in contemplation of death, I'm trying out the idea of doing a very calm, peaceful serenity practice like mindful awareness of the breath. And then bringing in the contemplation of death, being very honest about it. And then if the death contemplation is creating anxiety or agitation, then putting that thought aside and coming back to the breath for a while, and then coming back to recall about death. And so then in that way, we're not torturing the mind or causing distress and upset, but instead by a gentle approach, we're making the thought of death safe for us, because we know we can think of the inevitable death, and then we can know how to come back to like a safe zone of a peaceful contemplation, peaceful meditation. Damon, did you take your hand down, or do you still want to speak?
Yeah, just waiting for you to finish. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Could you suggest some props to help? I think you may have talked about in the past, although we can't probably go to an autopsy or to the funeral parlor, but we can look, for example, I recently online found a Burmese monastic who compiled a 400-page book with mostly color photographs of corpses and innards hanging out of bellies. And so I found that very helpful and really driving this, reality home. Another thing I found was in the yoga studio where I practice, there hangs a skeleton. I don't know if it's a real one or a fake one, but it looks very real. I was wondering if you recommend these type of props as reminders. Yeah.
Yes, it's possible. I've seen those things, and There's one series that somebody shared privately with us, which was done at a Buddhist temple in an Asian country, where they took photographs over a long period of time of the stages of decomposing of one body. Another something, if you live in the country, sometimes an animal dies in the forest, and it doesn't get scooped up and taken away, but it's just there, and then it's possible to visit the body of that deceased animal as it goes through its stages of decomposing.
Great. Yeah, thank you.
Nirmala.
After the last time we were talking about this topic, I went and checked out a book from the library yesterday on final journeys. It's about a hospice nurse writing about final journeys. I just wanted to tell you, it made me very, very sad. And there is the contemplation of truth and sadness. I just wanted to tell you that and see what you have to say.
I recommend balancing your practice by doing a peaceful, tranquil meditation, like the meditation on the breath or the meditation on peace, and alternating looking at things that are difficult or sad to look at with contemplation, which is tranquil. Even in the samadhi, we can find within ourselves this inner potential we have to gladden the mind, to experience bliss and happiness that's not depending on anything external to us, but it's what we have within ourselves. So developing the pleasant side of meditation, it just helps to balance the mind and to be able to look at that which otherwise could be painful and sad. So that's one answer, is to balance in that way so that you don't get too caught up in a grief or sorrow. Another aspect I could say is that sometimes, depending on one's life situation, a person is caught up in real sorrow or depression because of a real loss, and so it's because of all the causes and conditions in their life that this loss is tipping them over into grief, and they don't yet know how to emerge from grief. And so if they don't know how to emerge from grief and to come into bliss, then they have to bear it and just watch, investigate what's going on with this grief. What's going on with this sadness? Is it permanent or impermanent? What's the cause? Why does this sadness sometimes seem stronger? Why does it sometimes seem weaker? Why does sometimes the sadness disappears completely for a few minutes, and then sometimes it comes back? What's going on? So then sorrow or grief or lamentation is a whole field of investigation. And within that, you can discover what dukkha really is and how dukkha works. Then beyond this, the Buddha doesn't usually write about dukkha without writing about the cause of dukkha. So dukkha is based on craving. And if he only taught dukkha and he didn't teach the cause of dukkha, then it would not be an onward leading path. You would just get caught in being miserable because of dukkha. And so the same way with us, we shouldn't just be miserable because of dukkha. We should incline or look out the hypothesis we're trying to find out, is this true or not? Is that pain, suffering is coming about because of craving. And when something that we're craving or something that we're caught up in is like when we're stuck on something like that, then we continue to suffer. When we become able to put it down, then our suffering ceases or resolves. And so then these are all of the really good investigations that can be done with the anxiety, the sorrow, the grief, and the other emotions that can come along when we look at dying, death and dying. And this is another way that this meditation is fruitful. I want to come back to the sutta now.
Thank you so much.
So, at first he's talking about these causes of death being an obstacle to my progress, and now he's shifting. He's saying, are there any bad, unskillful qualities, akusala dhamma, that I haven't given up, that might be an obstacle to my progress if I die tonight? So the dhamma is, in this case, a dhamma in the plural. It's translated as qualities. These are mental factors or things that are able to be cognized and held in the mind. And then pahana is letting go. And so apahana is not letting go. So I haven't given them up. I'm still clinging to them. And then suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows that there are such bad, unskillful qualities, then in order to give them up, they should apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and situational awareness. Chanda is called enthusiasm. That's like making a decision or having a wish. This is the one kind of wish that is acknowledged as can be a wholesome factor. Is one is wishing for development in the practice, and that gives you the energy to go on. And then the effort, the vayama, usaha, vigor, usahi, perseverance, and then this mindfulness and clear comprehension is called sati sampajanya. And this is a very common term. Sampajanya is sometimes translated or explained as being almost the same thing as mindfulness. When Bhikkhu Sujata translated as situational awareness, I understand that he's saying that when the two phrases are paired together, sati and sampajanya, paired together, that's meaning that the sati is more like an inward reflecting, being aware of the four foundations of mindfulness, of the internal states of the body, feelings, states of mind, and the dhammas that we realize. And then the sampajanya, the sam and the pa is, in Bhante Sujata's explanation, more like outwardly directed. So in the foundations of mindfulness, he says that one should contemplate internally, externally, and both. So you're not just completely caught up with what's inside your mind or inside your mind-body complex, but realizing as the delusion about the self weakens, that there's a kind of like a connectivity between that which is true inside of us and that which is true outside of us, that we are aware of our own feeling, and we're aware of other beings also having feelings similar to ours. We're aware that our actions have consequences for us, and that our actions can have consequences to be harmful and beneficial to others. And so then our awareness becomes wider and broader, not only internally focused, but encompassing the whole situation. In a few minutes, I'm hoping that Richard, since you think about vocabulary, you might have something further to say about this phrase, sati sampajanya. But the Buddha says that when you know that these qualities exist, then you should apply all of this effort, mindfulness, perseverance, situational awareness. Suppose your clothes or your head were on fire. In order to extinguish it, you'd apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and situational awareness. In the same way, in order to give up those bad, unskillful qualities, that mendicant should apply intense enthusiasm, and so on. So this is given in the context of the awareness of death. Because of the awareness of death, you should be practicing with this much urgency. But suppose that upon checking, a mendicant knows there are no such bad, unskillful qualities. Then that mendicant should meditate with rapture and joy, training day and night, in skillful qualities. This meditating with rapture and joy day and night is referring to the practice of samadhi. So, and samadhi is what is able to arise for us when we are secluded from those unskillful qualities. So when you cannot get samadhi because the hindrances are there, then you have to practice mindfulness and situational awareness. You have to practice this mindfulness as strongly as you can. And then when you recognize that just at this moment, the bad, unskillful qualities are departed, if you know how to recognize that and value it, then just that moment, that's the time that the samadhi can come up for you, and you can practice in that way. Or else, now here's a new thought. As night passes by and day draws close, a mendicant reflects, I might die of many causes. A snake might bite me, a scorpion, centipede might sting me. If I died from that, it would be an obstacle to me. The same contemplation, these same thoughts, stumbling off a cliff, disturbance of bile, phlegm, piercing winds, dying from that would be an obstacle to my progress. And then he would reflect, are there any bad, unskillful qualities that I haven't given up, which might be an obstacle to my progress if I die today? Excuse me a second. So the first one is before bed, if I die tonight. Okay? So this is a meditation to do in the evening. And this next one is a meditation to do in the morning. If I die today. So this is giving us the tip. Don't just do it one time, but do it multiple times. Then he knows, if he knows there are such bad, unskillful qualities, in order to give them up, they apply intense enthusiasm, effort, zeal, vigor, perseverance, mindfulness, and situational awareness. Elsewhere, that's very often translated as clear comprehension. Suppose your head or clothes were on fire. In order to extinguish it, you'd apply intense enthusiasm and so on. In the same way, in order to give up those bad, unskillful qualities, that mendicant should apply intense enthusiasm. But suppose that upon checking, the mendicant knows there are no such bad, unskillful qualities. Then that mendicant should meditate with rapture and joy, training day and night in skillful qualities. Mindfulness of death. Sorry for that. My screen is jumping, I apologize. Mindfulness of death, when developed and cultivated in this way, is very fruitful and beneficial. It culminates in the deathless and ends with the deathless. So, coming back to discussion. In the chat, you will see that there's two links given that you can click on them if you would like to read or look at those books. Damon had the question, can the deathless be experienced while alive and well? Yes, indeed it can. It's when you have the clear knowledge that there is no more coming to birth for me. So that's one of the things which is known by the fully enlightened Arahant. And for those who are not yet a fully enlightened Arahant, if you have stream entry, you have the clear knowledge that if I continue practicing along this path, then I can come to that final state where there's no more coming to birth for me.
Ordinary meditation, can we get glimpses?
According to my understanding, would be yes. And that's based on impermanence, that like perceptions, it's kind of like there's a merry-go-round and the consciousness is the operator standing in the middle, watching the horses and the different animals of the merry-go-round going by, but then experiencing like the one who's like in the center watching the things go by has got stillness. So just because of impermanence, it's possible that sometimes, like the craving comes and goes, the delusion comes and goes, the craving for existence comes and goes. All of those things are impermanent. They're coming and going all the time. So there's like it's sort of like gaps in our experience when those that constant activity is like has like a space, and we can discover those empty spaces in our lives And that's what this is just me talking. I'm not saying I have this from an authority. That when we can cognize those empty spaces, that could be something which is either equal to or parallel to or leading to the emptiness, and which is very close to experiencing the deathless. I'm going to see if anybody else has something to say about this question. Can deathlessness, the deathless, be experienced while alive and well? I'm just like, do you have anything to say? I'm going to give the mic to my colleague Satima, who ensures discussion of the
So much. Thank you, AA. I just had several thoughts over the course of this wonderful Dhamma discussion, but I think the one that I feel very relevant to this topic is, I think, something I've shared with you before, which is, when we have these...
Excuse me, Aya, is the microphone on?
A little louder, please.
It seems like maybe you've been picking up from your PC or something till now. The microphone wasn't on.
Check now.
The batteries.
The battery's dead? Okay, so I'm going to change my sound. Thank you. Audio settings. Yes, right.
A little closer.
Come close
Okay.
and talk to the computer.
So anyway, thank you, IA. I was just noting, and I think I was just saying to IA a little earlier, maybe even today, that it's kind of amazing and kind of wonderful that we have these breaks in experience from suffering. But I know I didn't really have a history of appreciating the absence of something. But we know about the presence of greed or the presence of hatred, when we're practicing long enough. At some point we come to know, oh, there's greed, there's hatred, or this is a mind that's kind of being overcome by sloth and torpor or whatever. But I think the thing that I didn't really appreciate was the absence of those things. And I think for a long time I didn't feel like I've made a lot of progress or steady progress in the practice, because I don't think I was raised in a culture, or maybe even American culture, where you appreciate what's not there, because it's all about the next thing. And you go from grade school, high school, college, and grad school and PhD, and on and on and on. But those spaces in between the greed, like sometimes I could be meditating, very earnestly or whatever, and sloth and torpor would come up. It's so clear, the mind is dull and heavy, but then it would go, and when it would go, I didn't really pay much attention to the absence of that, or the disappearance of it, the cessation of it, because I was so agitated by the presence of it. But then with some guidance and encouragement, and with some practice, and really trying to see clearly the absence of greed, like what does that feel like? And kind of giving it attention, giving it nurturing, and giving it fertilizer, if you will, then I could see in very subtle ways, maybe at first, that those the appreciation for the absence of something that was unwholesome started to grow. It's like the mind got a clue or got on to, oh, this is good. This is wholesome. And that fork, in the path where one fork leads to unwholesome and one leads to wholesome. At first it was kind of obscure, maybe not so clear. And sometimes it's still obscure, but once the mind recognizes, oh, this is what presence of something is like, and this is what the absence of something is like. Now it's like as soon as something defiled comes up, like the mind wants to clean that right away. Or sometimes it can see right before it arises, oh, this is not good. So I say that to say, and to encourage, both myself and all of you, my fellow practitioners, that maybe as Americans or whatever culture we're raised in, where we have a habit of not appreciating the absence of something, maybe it's a good idea to take another look at how much time and attention we give to the cessation of these defilements, and try maybe to make a commitment to give more attention to the absence than the present, and see if that supports the growth and development of that. Thank you. Silence.
Okay, I'll call on Richard.
Thank you. So the deathless, when Buddha teaches the Dharma and one attains Sotapan, which you were touching on, that's called opening the doors to the deathless. So at that point, because you're seeing now the end of your cycle of birth and death. So there is an end to this cycle, right? As you were saying. But in meditation, achieving the fifth formless state, cessation, right? That's the same thing, okay? When you achieve that cessation, you now understand what the deathless is. Whether you are able to completely let go of craving and become an arahant, or you just attain the stage of no returner, it's still, that cessation, that deathless, state. But there's also Sutta number 52 in the Majjhima Nikaya. Ananda says, "Here, householder, quite secluded from sensual pleasure, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters upon and abides in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied and sustained thought with rapture and pleasure born of seclusion. He considers this and understands it thus. This first jhana is conditioned and volitionally produced, but whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. Standing upon that, he attains the destruction of the taints." So even at the level of the first jhana, it is possible, if you see that, whatever is conditioned and volitionally produced is impermanent, subject to cessation. If you fully penetrate that, you can achieve arahantship without having to go any further. So it's basically that knowledge of cessation, and that is also cessation, which is the third of the Four Noble Truths, right? There's a way to end suffering, cessation. Okay, so it is possible, that any one of us can achieve that, and therefore, experience, the deathless. Anyways, that's all I wanted to add. Thank you. Oh, that other question about that word, which Bhikkhu Bodhi translates as clear comprehension, sampajanya. Some means, this is a little hard to get the full flavor, but some is like together. Pa means going forward, and jhana. So what he's saying is doing your sati, right? Your mindfulness or awareness, however you want to. I like awareness. But holding on to that knowledge, in other words, thinking of those things, right? Oh, I need to overcome these things in order to, put all these unwholesome things behind me. It's like that. It sort of means like going forward with a constant effort, but holding on to that knowledge, that janya, that knowledge. So kind of like that. Anyways, that's how I would look at it. But but it's a little subtle, so I think that's why the translators have kind of like a hard time figuring out exactly, well, how can I put this clearly in English, right? But I think it's important to understand that pa idea, that forward, going forward, you're trying to maintain, in other words, don't lose it. Anyway,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Thank you. We've come up to the moment of 2:30, a little bit after. So are there others who have questions or comments that will help us that you'd like to add at this time? And if we're all satisfied and inspired, uplifted by this sutta, let us pay respects to the Triple Gem, to the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha.